Okay, good to go? This is my exhibit called Holly Gone. It's an exhibit of images I took of a bedroom with the remnants of a 12-year-old girl, but that wasn't the plan. Many years ago, there was a TV advert on in the UK and Ireland, and it always struck me, mainly because I have a daughter called Holly, and it referenced a girl in this video, in this advert called Holly. And she's a young girl, she's probably 6 or 7, and she's kind of going away for her first summer camp. And she has a younger sibling, a boy. He's sitting at the breakfast table in his high chair. So he's a year, he's 14 months, something like that. And she goes off in her gear, and mom is holding back the tears, but she's soldiering on. And then it cuts to the young boy, and he says, "Holly gone." And I always remember that. So fast forward a few years later. I've separated and divorced from my wife. It's not going well. She has promised never to do what was done to me by my first wife, which was that I was removed from my 2 girls, who I was very close to and wanted to be a part of their life. But my first wife, felt this was going to be a power game, and she wanted to win this game, and she never loses. So she won, despite court orders, despite my desired wish to give her everything, literally, house, car, paintings, so that I could have access to the kids. But once I lost the power, I then lost the power to see the kids. And even my family were rowing in to support my ex-wife. So it was quite a difficult time. So my second wife, having seen all this, having been through all this, promised me that she would not ever, ever, ever do this to me again. Well, she lied. But up to that point, Holly and I had been doing really quite well. We had been talking for quite a few months about what her room would look like in my house. And the only thing I said no to was she wanted black painted walls. And I think maybe if I'd owned the house, I might have said yes, but this was a house I was going to leave at some point, and the thoughts of getting back in and repainting, because I'm sure a landlord would not appreciate black walls. But pretty much you got everything else. We would visit furniture stores and the usual stuff. This isn't anything different. I think this is what normal parenting is all about, that it's a way of making connections to your children. But it was also a way of trying to create a new future as well. She was 12. I had been with her all of that time. I'd worked from home for much of that time. So I was there very much as the first parent for quite a bit. And this was all about just producing a new life, creating a new life, endorsing, enforcing, resourcing, whatever you need to do that, to make that happen. And this just seemed to be driving my ex-wife bananas. I'm not sure. Very simple dialogue. All men are bastards, really. And quite often it doesn't take very much for everybody to believe that, because that's the kind of dialogue. If you look at some of the adverts on TV, men are really not allowed to be caregivers. They're not allowed to be those who would wash the laundry, do the laundry. You know, they're ridiculously stupid at that. And there's always a regular joke about those things. So there's kind of a subtext here of men and child rearing just don't go together. So it can be quite easy to separate that in the mind's eye. As I said, even my family, first time around, found that easy to do, even though I was their brother, their son, and the one who had been with them for many years, but simple dialogue. So we choose this place, we create this place. I even wrote a poem about part of that process, kind of a few months beforehand. So we create the space. Holly sleeps in that on a regular basis, no main issues. And then one night, the mom just decides this ain't going to continue anymore. And she returns to take her away while I was in work, knowing I had to work. That's kind of how you pay maintenance. You pay your alimony, you go to work, and I wasn't allowed to have babysitters. I had to go to work at night, I needed babysitters. Go figure, I just couldn't. So Holly was gone, and the room was left. And I just couldn't touch that room. I couldn't go near it. It was like a mausoleum. I'd kind of peep in every now and then. And then I get this idea that maybe I should document it. My own background is very much in a personal project response to photography, which is creating a story, really. I'm a storyteller. I do use words to do that, but I've done so in visuals over many, many years. So it seemed sensed for me to do that. And that was there, the idea was there, and it kind of lay there. It lay there for another 14 months. That room stayed as it was for 14 months. I didn't touch it, I couldn't touch it. And then, of course, as time goes, you know, time is a great healer and all of that, and that is true, of course. The vestiges are left, I think, but you do move on, you have to. And then I thought, well, okay, if I'm going to do this, and I want to do this, how can I make this different? How can I make it special? And I suppose a coping mechanism I've developed over the years, and my time in Hutchinson, Kansas is hugely part of coming back to those touchstones, is to find a time and a place that was happier. Find a time and a place that you were more content. Find a time and a place that maybe you had more control. Who knows? The psychologists among us can maybe figure that out. But essentially what I wanted was, I wanted to do this on film. Then I decided, wouldn't it be neat? And I had just purchased a used camera, film camera, that was very similar to the one my mother had given me for my 21st birthday. Long since gone, but now I had this used second-hand one. So I decided I would use that. And I had also developed during my time as a film photographer, because my training is very much in the days of film, had my own darkroom. And I'm always trying to push boundaries. I'm always trying to make things that are the same, different. And sometimes it doesn't require a huge amount to do that. And I was very much taken with a technique and developed my own response to it in film called push processing. And that's where you shoot the film at a much higher ASA, as it was, ISO. So 400 ASA film, which would be very grainy, shot at 1600 ISO ASA, makes it even more grainy. But you have to compensate by developing it for longer. The result is that you get this gorgeous grain structure, a structure that I find actually beautiful. I always have. I miss that in digital. I don't like the filters that are applied because they're applied randomly. It isn't the same as the actual grain structure, the silver halides that are in negative film and on paper itself. And there's just a difference. And I think people who love film will kind of understand what I mean by that. It's really very, very hard to document that and tie it down. It's a feel. And that's what I wanted for this project. I wanted a feel. And that feel was going to be black and white. It was going to be high grain. It was going to be shallow depth of field. It was going to be 50mm 1.8. The kind of camera that I had, the kind of setting that I had, but couldn't manipulate it anywhere near as effectively as that back in my days of film. So that's really what I did. I went into the room. I started shooting. Very simple. I was not going to shoot the whole room. It's a very small room. It was kind of 10 feet by 8 feet, I'd say, if that. We call it a box room back home. It'll fit a single bed and a wardrobe and a desk and so on. So I just went about photographing the elements, but making them graphic, making them not quite, what would you say, kind of abstracts. They're not abstracts as such, but elements in them are abstract. And that's the shallow depth of field. That's going in close to the objects to shoot them. And I just did that, and it was 20 minutes. It was 20 minutes, that's all it took. And then I emptied the room. I got the film back. There were some issues. I didn't develop it. I had to get somebody else to develop it, and I fixed that in the software. And the result was this exhibition that you see. And that is something that I'm hugely pleased with. I see beauty in those images, and that beauty is very much a beauty for me that is salving. It's a beauty that kind of fixes things a little bit. And I'm very pleased and thrilled that that has happened.